The world's creation. The world in which we live is not eternal. It has had a beginning and shall have an end. Time itself had a morning. Then there was no sand, no sea, nor cool wave. Earth did not exist, nor heaven above. But space existed, an enormous empty abyss, Gunungagap. A trinity of forces existed that entered into Gunungagap and acted there. Cold, warmth, and creative wisdom. They rose from springs of unknown origin. North of Gunungagap, the cold spring Hvergelmir originated and enveloped the space in that direction with frosty mists. This district was therefore called Niflheim, Fog World. South of Gunungagap, a warm spring originated which was afterward known as Urd's Well. Between them, in the midst of Gunungagap, originated a spring of creative wisdom, of such depth that even Odin's thought cannot fathom it. This spring became known as Mimir's Well. Out of Hvergelmir, fog-shrouded waves of cold surged into Gunungagap, where they encountered warm billows from the south. Through their conflict and interaction arose the material elements from which the first world was formed. In the abyss of space, where the spring of creative wisdom originated, lay the seed of Yggdrasil, the world tree. It sprouted and sent out roots through the springs of three forces, and these countless, intertwined root threads became the framework on which the underworld rests. During long ages of the world, the tree's trunk grew ever higher and extended branches one above the other, on which the various worlds, as they were created, found their support. To mankind's eye, Yggdrasil is invisible. It is also called Mimir's tree. The primal beings. The creative force from the spring of wisdom penetrated the material elements, and from their fermentation arose a living being, the primal cow, Adhumla. She nourished herself on the germs of life that existed in the material elements, and liberated from these solid compounds a divine life form concealed within them. When Adhumla licked the rime frost and salt, a man's shape gradually emerged, as if loosened by her tongue, out of the rocky ground. He was beautiful to behold, and of enormous size. A divine spirit dwelt within him, and he became the progenitor of the gods that rule and protect mankind's world until the end of this age. This, the oldest of Epoch's gods, was named Buri, and became father to Bor, and grandfather to Odin and his brothers. But in the primordial world there arose another creature, the enormous giant Ymir. Poison drops flung out of Hvergelmir's waves gathered, grew, and formed him. With 4 mouths he sucked 4 milk streams from Adhumla's udders. They nourished him with germs of life of different types, which made him the father of different races, grown from different limbs of his body. Thus, from under his left arm grew a man and a maid, Mimir and Besla, from which were to come a handsome race, friendly to the gods. But his feet, one with the other, conceived a monster with 3 heads, Thrudgemir, the father of destructive frost giants. Thrudgemir, like his father, bore the son Bergelmir, without a woman. Among the noble beings that originated from Ymir, the most distinguished are the wise Mimir and his sister Besla, and the 3 Disis of fate, the sisters Urd, Verdandi, and Skuld. The underworld, Bor's sons, the primeval artists, and Odin's self-sacrifice. The underworld is the oldest part of creation. It was inhabited and adorned long before the earth was established, as a dwelling for the race of man, and even before Asgard was inhabited by the Aesir. The underworld consists of 2 distinct regions, separated by high mountain range with steep walls. This mountain range is called Nidafjall, Nida Mountains. North of it lies Niflhel, dreary, cold, boggy, and mist-shrouded, where Niflheim had formerly been found in chaos. Up on a mountain plateau, the Hvergelmir fountain is found again, from which many rivers flow down to the north and south. South of the Nidafjord range, a land of indescribable splendor exists, a land of flowering fields and groves, never ravaged by frost and winter. This land consists of two realms, Mimir's kingdom and that of the Dices of Fate. Mimir's realm is situated above the former Gununga Gap, around the well of creative wisdom, of which he is the ward and watchman. The other realm is situated around the warm fountain, and has its guardians as the three Norns, or Dices of Fate, Erd and her sisters. Together, Mimir and Erd's realm comprise Hel. Thus the underworld consists of Hel and Niflhel. Centered above the underworld, the earth's plate rests on Yggdrasil's branches, but it was long time before this the world became hospitable for mankind. Ymir and the multi-headed offspring of his feet dwelt there for ages. It was a world filled with wild and misshapen giant creatures. While Earth's surface looked like this, the oldest gods dwelt peacefully and happily in the eternal green kingdom of the underworld, together with Mimir, the Dices of Fate, and other members of the same noble giant clan. Buri's son Bor married Mimir's sister Besla, who bore him 3 sons. The oldest of the 3, Odin, is known by many other names as well. He became the progenitor of the Aesir god tribe. The second is the gentle Honir, also known as Ve. The third is Loder, the blazing, who is also called Vili. Honir and Loder became the progenitors of the Vanir god tribe. Every morning, Mimir, the ward of the well of creative wisdom, drank of its power and knowledgeable granting mead, the most precious and delightful liquid in creation, and by it was endowed with the creative power and wisdom. He fathered 7 sons, who enjoyed the same drink and became the personification of creative power, like their father, and in their father's service, architects of nature and great smiths, who forge grass and herbs, as well as wonderful ornaments of fire, gold, and other materials. Fate determined that Odin and his descendants should not remain in the underworld. They were appointed to rule the worlds above. Odin climbed up into the world tree to survey from its heights the realms that he had been allotted, and he saw how the misshapen Ymir and the gruesome offspring of his feet occupied the earth. Odin was still young and inexperienced, and he knew that by his power alone he would not be able to rid the earth of these monsters and fulfill the other duties that awaited him as the governor of the world. One drink from the well of wisdom could help him in this, but Mimir, the well's wise guardian, refused him the drink until he had proven himself worthy through self-sacrifice. So Odin sacrificed himself for his life's work. 9 days he hung from the windswept tree without food or drink, pierced with a spear, sacrificed to Odin, sacrificed to himself, gazing downward, pleading through tears for the strength he lacked, and listening to the rune song that he perceived from the deep, until he fell, powerless, down from Yggdrasil's crown. Then Mimir gave him the eagerly awaited drink, and taught him the 9 wonderful potent songs. Odin's powers developed copiously thereafter. He became great in knowledge and creative might. The destruction of the frost giants, the outpost by Hvergelmir. Now Odin knew he was in a position to accomplish the work he had in mind to liberate the earth from the primordial giants. His brothers Honir and Loder joined him in this undertaking. They slew Ymir by opening the veins in his neck. From the wound surged a river of blood that grew into a sea in which the evil had malformed offspring of the primordial giants drowned. Yet these monsters, the frost giants, were not destroyed. Death obliterates nothing. Their souls survived and descended into the underworld. There, north of the Nidafjord range in Niflhel, they found a land that in its darkness, its frosty mists, and its putrid bogs suited them. There they built a hall, and in the course of time became dangerous neighbors of Mimir's realm. To the race of frost giants belong the spirits of disease, who dwell in Niflhel. Among them are the Tramar, evil wights, Morn, agony of the soul, Topi, insanity, Opi, convulsive crying, and Otholi, restless anxiety. As protection against the frost giants, the gods and Mimir established an outpost by the Hvergelmir mountain on the border of Niflhel. As sentries of the outpost, they chose the elf Ivaldi and his 3 sons, because they had sworn oaths of allegiance to the gods. Ivaldi's sons were brave warriors and skilled artists, who received training from Mimir himself in the secrets of the smith's art. One of the 3, Volund, was a particularly remarkable artisan, comparable to Sindri himself, the best smith among Mimir's sons. Volund's brothers were named Egil and Slagfinn. They were splendid archers and skiers. The creation of the world continues. Out of the sea of blood that covered the earth, Odin and his brothers lifted the lands that lay beneath, so that in the center appeared a land called Midgard, and, on the borders of this earth place, a land whose northern and eastern parts are called Jotunheim. Between Midgard and Jotunheim lay a broad chasm, where the billows of blood gathered and formed an expansive sea around Midgard, on all sides. The drowned primordial giants were not all of the same malformation. The deformities had decreased with each successive generation. Among Bergelmir's children and grandchildren, some could even be found who were well formed and seemed less wild than their fathers. Odin showed compassion toward these younger giants and allowed them to save themselves from the waves upon the coasts of Jotunheim, where they and their descendants dwelt thereafter. One of them was the giant maid Golveig, to whom the goddesses extended friendship. Another was the giant lad Loki, whom Odin found likable as he was handsome, clever, quick, and cheerful. The gods, however, did not suspect what dangerous friends Golveig and Loki were. Ymir's limbs became the building material for the advancing creation of the world. But beyond that, many industrious hands were needed, so they gathered the highest, eldest holy gods and Mimir and the other architects of nature to meet. They sat on their judgment seats and deliberated over the building plan and the acquisition of many excellent workers. They were unanimous that Mimir should be the leader in all this, and with the assistance of Durin, a fire being also known as Surt, would give life to a multitude of dark elves and dwarves who would assist in accomplishing the work. Mimir would be their master, and so it happened. The seeds of life from which Mimir and Durin, by their creative artistry, produced the industrious race of dwarves and dark elves, were found in Ymir's blood and limbs. Mimir created the dwarves. Durin Surt created the dark elves, who therefore are called his sons. The Ida plains in the underworld now bustled with lively activity. Gods and primeval artists, dwarves and dark elves built furnaces and forged and crafted the tools required to accomplish their task, as well as the works of art and ornaments with which to adorn creation. According to the plan for the establishment of the world, upon which the gods and the architects of nature had agreed unanimously, a heaven should arc over the entire world. Beneath it, day and night, sun and moon should travel in fixed order along determined courses, to measure time and divide into periods of rest and activity. The vault of heaven was made of Ymir's skull, and the storm clouds drifting beneath it of his brain. Mimir had a daughter, Night, of dark complexion, but with beautiful features and a gracious heart, worthy to be what she became, the mother of gods, with Deling, the elf of dawn's first blush, who rules the eastern portion of Mimir's realm. She bore the son Day, who became progenitor of the light elves. The primeval artists made chariots for night and day. Because the powers had decided in council that Mimir's dark daughter and her luminous fair son would ride through the underworld's eastern horse doors alternately up into the heavens, and return through those in the west, where Billing, the lord of the sunset glow, had his land allotted. Day's chariot is inlaid with precious stones. His horse is named Skinfaxi, shining mane. Night's horse is named Hrimfaxi, frost mane. By day, Hrimfaxi grazes on the grass of subterranean fields, which is strewn with honeydew that falls from Yggdrasil's lowest branches. Rich in leaves, thus, during its journey, he works up a froth which, when it falls from his mouth in the morning, becomes a nourishing dew that fertilizes the valleys of earth. With Loder, Night had two beautiful children, Mani and Sol, moon and sun. And the council resolved that they should travel across the heaven in chariots made of fire and gold, crafted in the underworld smithies to illuminate the world. The primeval artists invented ingenious devices to protect the sun goddess from the chariot's radiant beams and to cool the horses that drew it. The sun dise's protection consists of a shield called svalin, fastened to the chariot. If it fell away, the sun dice would burn, and the chariot would fall from its path, crash to earth, and ignite it. A device that blows cool air over the horses is attached to the tack beneath their withers. The horses are named Arvarg, early waker, and Alsvid, very swift. On Arvarg's ears and on Alvid's hooves, the architects of nature carved beneficial runes. The gods formed Earth's mountains from Ymir's skeleton. Of his flesh, saturated with Adhumla's nourishing fluids, they resolved to make a fertile soil and spread it over Midgard's bare stone tract.